it's been a while since I've unboxed a Samsung product that was brand new. In fact, it's been a while since I've unboxed any product that wasn't an iPhone. So I'm very, very excited to get my hands on the brand new Galaxy S24. And I wasn't really gonna buy it because right now the smartphone market has plateaued and hardware innovation is done pretty much. What we're gonna see now is software innovation, and that's where things get a little bit messy. So I really wanna figure out what software innovation looks like with the new Galaxy S24. So this is the Onyx Black 8 gig, 256 gig model. So let me go ahead and lift up the box. I already pulled off the pull tabs. Comes off very easy, not a lot of resistance. On the inside, you've got a Samsung little tab, and let me pull this out and see what's in here. I'm assuming it's just gonna be the SIM card tool and the cable because it's quite light. And I was right, you get a, let's see, USB-C to C cable. Seems to be pretty decent quality, very standard length. You get a regional lock guide and a quick start guide, and you get a SIM card tool. I have to say the packaging looks very cheap. For a phone that's $800, I'm not saying, look, phone boxes are very empty these days. That's pretty much like a foregone conclusion at this point, but the quality of material used is also degrading a lot. I know that manufacturers are trying to go a little bit more eco-friendly, go for some nicer, more recycled materials, but that doesn't mean it has to feel this cheap. This looks like it's out of a $200 phone, not even a $200 phone. Very, very disappointed with the quality of materials used in the box. I mean, it is sturdy, it's fine, but still, you know, it's about the presentation. It's about the experience you get when you buy a brand new expensive phone, which is always something very exciting. And honestly, behind your house, your car, your phone is one of the largest purchases you make. So the experience of it, I mean, these days just feels very, very bland and basic. So this is the phone, and that color looks amazing. It really reminds me of the space gray on the iPhone 13 Pro. Yeah, the 13 Pro, but man, it looks so similar. The sides are this aluminum, matte finished aluminum. The back is a matte finished glass. There's already slight little smudges and little specks of dust on this, but I mean, that's kind of at this point. With black and matte, you're gonna see some things on this. So this is pretty much it. Like, this box is so thin, like it's very, very small. Like, this is a very, very, very minimalistic experience to be kind to this phone. So on the top, you've got a screen protector. So let me go ahead and peel this off, and I will, of course, keep my mic close to it so you guys can experience that peel with me for the first time. All right, so not a lot of static on there. It didn't really have a lot of audio, but it was a satisfying peel. So let me go ahead and hit the power on button and look at this display. I'm quite intrigued to see what the bezels look like on this phone. You can already see that the phone is very flat, very iPhone-esque pretty much. This is a iPhone 14 look-alike. This looks a lot like the Nothing phone as well, which I have right here. You guys can see like the kind of core philosophy of the design and the kind of color, everything very, very familiar. The edges, they all feel very different. I'm sorry, very similar. The one big benefit of the S24, of course, is that it has a much smaller size. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead, set this up, use it for a bit, and come back and give you guys my initial impressions on the S24. After spending the last couple of hours setting everything up on the phone and just getting familiar with it, I have figured out a lot of things. But before I get into that, I want to show you guys the phone itself because I didn't do that after the unboxing. So on the right side of the phone, you've got the volume up, volume down, and the power button. Nothing else over here. On the bottom, you've got a cutout for what I'm assuming is only the speaker, or it might be the speaker and microphone because there is another microphone right here, sandwiched right between the USB-C port and the SIM slot. Over here on this side, there is absolutely nothing, just one antenna bands that look pretty neat and clean. At the top, you've got two holes that are presumably microphones. And then on the back, again, very clean, neat design. You've got the 3 cameras, flash module, and that's about it. The flash module does look a little bit just weirdly out there. It really hasn't been integrated the best. They could have maybe done something a little bit different with that. Other than that, I think this is a very, very subtle, sleek, and elegant looking phone. I really have no complaints with the design whatsoever, besides the fact that it could be a little bit more unique. I feel like Samsung has really just overdone the camera in a line layout, which has kind of gotten to be repetitive, and it's very hard to differentiate models, which in turn, I mean, look, people when they're buying expensive phones, they want to stand out, and showing off is a part of buying an expensive phone, whether you like it or not. So I do feel like Samsung would be a little bit better off had they integrated a little bit more of a unique design for the S24 lineup compared to their pretty much entire other lineup of lower end and mid-range phones. So let's get into the display, and the display is a 6.2 inch flat, absolutely just clean 1080p 120Hz screen. The kind of key feature on this is that it has a peak brightness of 2600 nits. Now, peak is a key word here. That won't be achieved by sliding the slider up all the way. This is not 2600 nits. 2600 nits would only be hit, I believe, when you're watching HDR content and if you are in direct sunlight. There's very limited use cases for the 2600 nits, and I actually was able to keep this phone right next to my iPhone 15 Pro Max and play HDR video, max out the brightness on both of the phones, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max has a peak brightness of 2000 nits, and that was still visibly brighter than the S24, so that is something to keep in mind. Don't get sold by that peak brightness number. It doesn't mean the phone is going to be brighter in every situation. I'm sure the peaks might be higher, but in day-to-day situations, they get about equally as bright, and on HDR content, they were, I mean, the iPhone pretty much edged it out. Other than that, it looks great. It's fluid, and watching content on this is going to be great. The camera cutout is in the middle. This has a pretty nice and light feel in the hand. And another thing when we're talking about the phone in hand is that this is quite a slippery phone. Like, I'm used to carrying phones without cases. Weirdly, this has felt the most slippery to me. I think it's a combination of the very, very smooth and satiny finished aluminum frame, and then the combination of the very soft touch matte back. It just really slips out of your hand. Not to mention, it's just so flat on the edges. There's no curve or anything. So this has been one of the most slipperiest phones I've held. I didn't expect that when I first bought this phone, for sure. And then moving on, let's talk about the speakers. The speakers are fine. They're stereo. They get very loud. Comparable to the iPhone 15. One thing I did notice, side by side, it sounds a little bit less deep and wide as the iPhone. I feel like the iPhone just has a more complete sound. It's just a bit tinnier comparatively, but really it's not something you'll notice unless you have them side by side. And I'm kind of gonna mix the next few sections up. It's about the camera, the software, and the AI feature. So let me go ahead and talk about the camera. And the camera on this is kind of, so far, I've found it to be mediocre. It's okay. I mean, this is a picture I took, very normal. It has pretty decent sharpness and detail, but this is a 2x photo I took. I feel like, you know, it's doing fine, but one thing you'll notice, I don't know if it's going to show up on camera or not, the color temperature is absolutely different between the two. This is way more yellow, whereas this one is a lot more bluish and cool. So that's something that is very interesting. And again, here's a selfie that I took, and I took this on purpose to show you guys one of the more touted AI features. So if you hit edit, right here on the bottom, you'll see the little AI pop-up. So what you can do is tap or draw anything around that you want to move, delete, whatever. Kind of the Google, the feature from Google, which is called Magic Eraser. So I'm just gonna draw this around me, and well, it of course didn't pick me up all the way, so let me go ahead. There we go. So it's picked me up. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pick myself up and move myself, I guess, a little bit to the left. Yeah, a little bit to the left. Let's go ahead and generate. So they did show off this feature on their website and at the launch as well, that it is very cool and it works well. And I actually tried this in store. And also note how much time it's taking while I'm talking about this. So it took a decent amount of time. And what it did was, you guys can see, not a great job. If you zoom in here, you guys can see that there's just random strands of hair over there. It's completely amputated me on this side. And the whiteboard I have back here has weird artifacting that doesn't look real. So this AI feature is a nice gimmick, but I think you need to have very, very specific settings where this will actually be applicable, because otherwise it's not really that good. It's very, very basic stages. I think that if you're buying this phone with this feature in mind, or any of the really AI features, you should very much so not do that. Because let me talk about the AI features. So AI features are fine. They're not the craziest. I feel like it's just Google Lens with a shortcut. All right, so let me just go ahead and open up Google Lens. When I open up Google Lens, let me just go ahead and search for this. And when I search for this, you guys can see that it shows buy mini dog showpiece holding. Like it's something that Google Lens finds very quickly. This is on every single Android phone you can buy right now. That's not a special feature. What is special on this phone is if I were to say find this in some app, or find this somewhere randomly while I'm scrolling, I don't have to save this photo and then take it to Google Lens. I can just hold down the Google Assistant button, and then I can circle this, and it'll search and give me the same results more or less. And that's kind of the real only difference you get. That is not a feature I think is worth buying this phone alone for. It's a great little cherry on top, but the problem is that Samsung is leaning very heavily on this AI stuff, which is sure to be copied by every other brand in the next cycle. It really just needs to be a little bit more in depth. And then finally, software in general. Samsung's One UI has always been filled with bloatware, but over the years it's gotten more feature rich with usable features, not just throwing random stuff at the wall. So there's a lot of inspiration from the iPhone, especially with say being able to do a lot of customization on the home screen. Very similar home screen customizations. You can add widgets here, which looks so familiar to the way you can add them on iPhone. I mean, some of these weather AQI widgets are straight, exactly what you could find on iOS. Which have been added recently. You can add effects like you can change colors, or you can make it grayscale, go to original. So there's a lot of very similar looking things, and I don't mind at all. I think that if there's something good on a different competitor's device, you should absolutely try to incorporate it in yours. I don't really mind the copying. One thing I will say though is that while I'm okay with all the copying, what I'm not okay with is the tons of bloatware. It took me a good 10 to 15 minutes after I set up this phone just to get rid of all the junk. There's multiple phone apps, multiple messaging apps, there's so much confusion. And I had to kind of delete everything and set up everything the way I wanted it to. And that is something I was not happy with. And I would really, really like for Samsung to work on that, because other than that, One UI is a pretty decent skin. So overall, I think that this phone looks decent, but I really don't know if I can recommend it right now. I think it's a decent phone, but with $799 being the price for this phone right now, it has some really, really fierce competition from the OnePlus 12, the Pixel 8, the iPhone 15 even. And the first impressions really make me feel like that nothing about this phone stands out. There's stuff about the OnePlus 12 that stands out, stuff about the Pixel that stands out, and stuff about the iPhone that stands out as well. Nothing about this phone stands out, and that's a little bit of a problem. So if you're looking to buy an S24, I would say that don't buy it at $800 right now. Wait and see if it goes on sale. And even despite that, I feel like you should take a very, very good look at your competition before you go for this phone. Unless you really like Samsung and you're very comfortable with the way One UI works, I would say that the competition is fierce, and you should not lock yourself into this before you've compared it to other phones. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I'll have this phone linked and a couple of other ones that I think are really good in the description if you want to check those out. And if you have any questions about the S24 or any ideas for what I can compare it to, please let me know down in the comments below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.